Hello, I'm Paul Simon from the Suffolk Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to our latest Patrons interview. And it gives me great pleasure to be with Lisa Perkins from BT Adastral Park. Lisa, can you give us an idea as to your professional background and how did you come to be in Suffolk?
Oh, thank you very much. So, thank you very much for the opportunity. So I came to Suffolk 25 years ago now. So I came, thank you. It's extraordinary that it's that amount of time, but unfortunately it is that amount of time. I came here as a graduate, so freshly kind of qualified from university. I had done a Bachelor of Science in Biology and Maths, and then took a bit of a swerve ball approach and decided to do an MSc in telecommunications. So this was the obvious place to come as somebody who was looking to forge a career in that domain. So I joined back in 25 years ago as a graduate, and I have had a fantastic career at BT. Most people in BT will tell you the same thing. The opportunity to move around and have lots of different experiences in quite different roles is phenomenal. And so the big reason I'm still here 25 years later is because I've had the opportunity to traverse the business and do all manner of different roles in all the different lines of business. So I've been in wholesale, I've been in consumer, I've been in technology, I've been in OpenReach, executing different roles ranging from vendor management to significant program delivery to network design, and now currently in this role, which is research and innovation.
And your current job title is extraordinarily intriguing, if not enigmatic. You're the Adastral Park and Research Realisation Director. Now, I love job titles, and that one seems to me to be both very hard-edged, but also very flexible and stretchable. What do you do?
Yeah, it's actually that job title I don't like because it is so long, and it's like. But it's a direct consequence of the fact that my role is so diverse, and there's also the reason that I love my role, because it's so diverse. If I explain what I do, I like to think of it as a kind of a 4-segment circle, if you like. So kind of the first segment is very much associated with the Adastral Park piece. So it's about how do I build the best innovation ecosystem possible, so that we can, create the, amazing research and innovation to drive ultimately for BT opportunity and growth. But what I do love about it is the consequential other value impacts that it has, particularly for kind of region, for the next generation, and so on and so forth. So kind of that first segment is building the best innovation ecosystem. Second section is about how do you feed that ecosystem. So it's all very well having facilities and assets and the like. How do you feed it with the right research? So we look at numbers of different collaborations with universities. We have about 30 plus different university collaborations. We have industry collaborations. So, and we're building the ecosystem that we've got here at Innovation Martlesham with all of the companies that we work with as well. And so all of those ideas, innovations and research effectively feed the ecosystem and enable this massive kind of collaboration. But it's also feeding it from the perspective of talent and skills as well. So many people will recognise the schools programme that we run from Adastral, basically reaching out to thousands of children. Our footprint has gone significantly wider than just the local area, and having the opportunity to inspire and stimulate them to take up a career in tech, stick with the STEM subjects and take up a career in tech. So it's kind of building it, feeding it, and then it's about showcasing it. So how do we shine a spotlight on this fantastic ecosystem with all of this incredible research and innovation, so that people have the opportunity to engage with us, and so our customers can understand what we're doing, but how the wider nation and government can recognise the impact and the value from this ecosystem and everything that happens here. And then the final segment is about, well, how do we monetize that? So that's the realisation piece in the job title. So how do you, once you have all of that in store, actually bring it to fruition in terms of having the impact that it needs? So
that's a really hefty set of responsibilities. Do you get the sense in which what goes on here and what you do, what your teams do, directly and indirectly, are recognised and fully appreciated by the wider Suffolk stakeholder base?
I think to varying degrees. So I think we have really strong recognition and super partnerships and great collaboration. You know, the University of Suffolk is an example of a really strong partnership. Chamber, of course, and the councils, so particularly Suffolk County Council and East Suffolk Council. And there's been, I can point at numbers of different collaborations and opportunities that we've worked together on. So I think in many regards, it is well recognised and well understood. But I still think there's work to do to raise awareness even wider than that community. And that's a challenge that I have, not just kind of Suffolk, but you know, kind of on a national scale as well.
And I'm very much aware that you've been very keen to build out beyond the tech and telecommunications ecosystems in terms of launching and hosting a whole range of really quite interesting business initiatives. The Chamber launched our Health and Wellbeing Summit a few years ago here. You had the Robotics Festival, which I appreciate is part of the sort of core offer, and the Sustainability Festival a little earlier in the year. Can you give me a sense of how important that kind of wider outreach work is and how you judge its success?
So we are all about purposeful innovation. So we're applied research, it's purposeful innovation. And I could talk at length about the track record that we've established over many, many years in terms of significant innovations that have changed the course of you know, kind of technology and how we communicate, because obviously at the end of the day BT's purpose is to connect people for good and to enrich communications. The way that we strongly believe in to establish that purposefulness and that impact and effectiveness is to really understand our customer base and what the challenges are, what the opportunities are, and you know, what's happening across industry, understand you know, kind of where innovations are going, and so what we try to convene are the right initiatives that will bring all of those dynamics and those populations together so that we can have a healthy conversation around, you know, how do we marry up the challenges and the opportunities in one domain with the innovations and the ideas from another, and it might be that we need to bring, you know, policy into that conversation, or regulation into that conversation, depending on the nature of the conversation. But it's convening the right opportunities so that we can do that matchmaking. And so the Robotics Festival, the Sustainability Festival, the Health Hub, to name just a few of the interventions, have been designed with that in mind. So how do we drive insight back into our programme of work from our customer base and what's going on, so that we can give ourselves the best opportunity to create, you know, to create that purposefulness with what we do. You know, so it's not just researching for research's sake; it's researching with an applied thought of what is the challenge that I'm solving, or what's the opportunity I'm creating.
And looking more broadly, are your contacts, both within BT but more broadly in Whitehall and Westminster, are they always a little surprised as to the fact that all that is going on in what is frequently dismissed wrongly as a rather sleepy backwater county? It's been in Suffolk actually a bit of a challenge in terms of trying to explain to the wider world just what is going on here.
It can be. It certainly can be. So to answer the initial question, when we bring people here and they engage with our ecosystem and they see our showcases and they see our labs and our test centres and the operations centre and everything that happens on here, without fail, everybody is impressed.
Sure.
And
Sure.
you know, it's a bit of a frustration of mine that quite often it's we never knew, you know, and this was a secret, and I don't want it to be a secret. I want everybody to know the significance and the impact and the amazingness actually of what actually happens here. The challenge for us being in Suffolk comes to life in a couple of different formats. So one, you know, the old, there seems to be a struggle for people coming out of London, that, you know, coming to
even
Suffolk.
post-pandemic, are you still struggling in terms of skills
Maybe
pipeline?
not quite as much. Maybe not quite as much. There, you know, yes, obviously the dynamics have changed in terms of, you know, how people perceive, you know, kind of working area. But even just to visit, sometimes,
Sure.
you know, it seems to be what I consider to be an incredibly easy journey to get into London's, in the reverse context, seems to be a struggle for other people. So there's an element of that. I think the other point that I was going to make, though, is less about Suffolk and more about the East.
Sure.
And, you know, you mentioned, you know, kind of government, Whitehall and the like. When it comes to investment, you know, we are seeing a trend, I think, where investment from government goes into other areas of the UK and not to the East. And that's despite the fact that we host multiple visits from government during the course of the year. They come to be advised in terms of, you know, kind of the future opportunities from an economic and a business perspective, and technology and its role in that domain. However, it never translates into.
It's so frustrating,
kind of
isn't
impact.
it? It is so frustrating given what's going on in the county in terms of sunrise
100%.
growing sectors,
Yeah.
and decision makers in Whitehall not quite making the connections. In order to do that better, more quickly and more efficiently, you need a level playing field in terms of infrastructure,
Exactly.
road, rail,
Yes.
5G, etc. But you know, I know the Chamber has been and will continue to lobby on behalf of the county, and I know that you and your colleagues are also very effective advocates. Can we turn now to how the operation here is viewed within BT? Because there have been some challenges this year about the site and the scale of operations. Can you just give me a sense of how confident you are that actually BT knows what it's got here?
So, I think the first thing to say is a positive thing, and that is that BT absolutely still regards Adastral as being a critical site. You know, and that will always continue to be the case. There are critical facilities that are here on site that mean, you know, BT can be effective in its operations. That to replicate anywhere else would be significant, you know, it would be a significant cost, a significant upheaval. And so, you know, I can't imagine a time where we won't need those facilities. And so, you know, I think the enduring position of Adastral in that regard is positive. The announcements sort of recently have been around, you know, how do we kind of reduce the footprint, however, from a BT perspective here at Adastral, and that is in part congruent with, you know, just the business-wide initiative in terms of, you know, like many other businesses, and we're seeing it every day, aren't we, across industry, are having to, you know, kind of prioritise and downscale because they can't afford to continue at the scale that they're currently operating at. So in part, you know, we're seeing some of that as, you know, consequentially here at Adastral. However, there's also an appetite by the business to kind of build resilience in terms of where they source their skills from, and, so there is an appetite to, kind of look into building strategic sites elsewhere across the country to just kind of build that resilience piece. But the business is going to be investing in Adastral. It is still going to be a critical site, and it will still be the largest population of network skilled people for BT.
Okay, and that's incredibly reassuring, because I think initially the Suffolk opinion was one of horror, but very clearly you're reaffirming that Adastral Park will always have a role within the BT network, and it could be a sharper role, a more focused role, but it will always be a significant campus in and of itself. That's good, and I know you're an incredibly passionate advocate for what goes on here. You and I were at House of Commons reception yesterday where you spoke very passionately to a Secretary of State who also happens to be the local MP asking for help. Can you elaborate what you're looking for from decision makers both in Westminster but also more locally as well?
Well, I think I'd like to start from the position of building from where I just got to. So Adastral is still a critical site, but we are reducing the footprint. And I do passionately believe, and of course I would say this for what I believe is good reason, in the power of what we can create at Adastral. And so I do have a concern as regards the dilution of kind of the population here at Adastral, and therefore the extent of the output that this community can create. And what I know to be true is that I have hosted, as I've already said, many different kind of members of government in all various different guises who see Adastral as this national asset. It's a critical asset in the technology landscape. There are things that happen here that just don't happen with any other communications provider across the UK. And as the world evolves around us and the landscape is getting much more difficult and much more tricky, and there are conversations around strategic autonomy.
Sure.
I also know to be true that telecoms and infrastructure associated with telecoms is viewed as critical infrastructure for the UK. At the end of the day, it's what keeps everybody connected and communicated. Businesses can't operate without connectivity and communications. But what I'm trying to encourage government to understand is that they can't take for granted that this will always continue to be present at the same scale.
So what aspects of government policy are really looking to be addressed? I mean, let me throw out to you an example. Skills and access to overseas skills. I mean, we know the Home Office has been quite difficult to deal with in terms of addressing short-term labour and skills issues. Would you be looking for the Home Office and the current administration and any prospective future government to be a little bit more attuned to the needs of this campus, the core business, and the wider ecosystem's needs?
Yes, I mean, I think I'd like to come back to where I was going as well, but to answer this question, skills is a very good part, and the vision that we're creating for Adastral, it's a key element. There are 3 elements, and we have I think an industry role to play in terms of creating the right skills for industry. And again, we've got the right ingredients here. We've got the fantastic partnership with the University of Suffolk. We have, and local government, obviously with funding from the LEP and supported by the Chamber, we were able to establish that, which I think is a fantastic asset for the region and the country. Because it gives us the opportunity to allow for differentiated learning. Our students can learn in the heart of a business ecosystem. The university has the opportunity to offer differentiated learning, and we as an ecosystem of 150 plus other companies, should be able to influence and and leverage the skills coming through. But I mean, I think of the wider landscape that you're alluding to in terms of kind of the skills space.
Yes.
Yes, we need support because we know that kind of generally there are not enough skills in the domains that we will perceive to be critical for us into the future. Think about the AI skills that we're going to need, cyber security, and so on. And those are kind of a real topic of importance and significance.
What else would you like government to do?
So I think where I was going was, I would like them to see Adastral for the critical asset that it is and invest in creating a future telecoms institute here at Adastral that convenes for the nation the ingredients that we have here, but also with our partners and collaborators.
Is that seriously on offer? Does government get it? Is it joined up enough to understand
so
across
this
departments?
is the challenge that we're working through at the moment. So for example, we are having very healthy and what we think and hope to be productive conversations with DSIT at the moment. So we're helping them, leaning in very hard, helping them with a feasibility study because they see the future of telecoms as such a critical domain. So what I was hoping for help with is to help connect all of those pieces. We have conversations with various different departments across government and various different influential leaders, but I would love for somebody in government to be the one voice that pieces all of that together and is the advocate moving into all of those departments so that we can actually land something materially different.
And that's a really clear lobbying ask, isn't it? That's something certainly that the Chamber will get behind and will facilitate directly through the British Chambers of Commerce, but also it's a call to action, I think, for local authorities and other stakeholders as well. So there's a campaign there, I think, which I think will be of benefit not just to the campus here, but actually to the wider business community. So finally, Lisa, given all that, and given the natural turbulence that there is in the economy now and probably will be, sort of the wider, broader issues of climate change, geopolitical shift and all that, are you fairly optimistic about the future of Adastral Park and its role in creating sustainable prosperity and connectivity?
I really am.
Yeah.
So despite all of the challenges, and I'm not underplaying those at all, I think some of them are really significant, I stand by the ingredients that we have here, and I think if you actually embrace all of those challenges, right back to my point about purposeful innovation, climate, sustainability, these are huge topics, huge challenges, and I am very positive that we can create an initiative in that domain that brings together not only our partners and collaborators, but the wider region, in terms of our stakeholders, maybe EDF, and so on, to create an initiative that drives real solutions to that as a challenge. And I think I have a number of those different initiatives that will drive the vision for Adastral and help me build and feed the ecosystem so that we can create that purposeful value in many different domains for the country.
Tremendous, and that sounds really, really optimistic, but it's realistically optimistic as well.
I think so.
Lisa Perkins, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.